Okay, so after Manasseh, which I read in the other one, we'll talk about Amon. Amon, king of Judah. Amon was 22 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 2 years. He did evil in the eyes of the Lord, as his father Manasseh had done. Amon worshipped and offered sacrifices to all the idols Manasseh had made, but unlike his father Manasseh, he did not humble himself before the Lord. Amon increased his guilt. Amon's officials conspired against him and assassinated him in his palace. Then the king of the land killed all who plotted against King Amon, and they made Josiah his son king in his place. It goes on to Josiah. Josiah was 8 years old when he became king and reigned in Jerusalem 31 years. He did what was right in the eyes of the Lord and walked in the ways of his father, David, not turning aside to the right or to the left. In the 8th year of his reign, while he was still young, he began to seek the God of his father David. In his 12th year, he began to purge Judah and Jerusalem with high places, as opposed, carved idols, and cast images. Under directions, his direction, the altars of Baal were torn down and cut to pieces. The incense altars were above them, and smashed the Asherah poles, the idols, and the images. And he broke into pieces and scattered them over the graves of the bones and sacrificed to them. Of those who sacrificed to them. He burned the bones of the priests and the altars, and so he purged Judah and Jerusalem. In the towns of Manasseh, Ephraim, and Simeon, as far as Naphtali, and in the ruins around him, he tore down the altars and the Asherah poles, and crushed the idols to powder, and cut to pieces all the incense altars throughout Israel. Then he went back to Jerusalem. In the 18th year of Josiah's reign, to purify the land and the temple, he sent Shaphan son of Azaliah and Maaseiah, the ruler of the city, with Joah son of Joahaz, the recorder, to repair the temple of the Lord his God. They went to Hilkiah the high priest and gave him the money that had been brought into the temple of God, where the Levites, who were doorkeepers, had collected them from the people of Manasseh, Ephraim, and the entire remnant of Israel, from all the people of Judah and Benjamin, and the inhabitants of Jerusalem. Then they entrusted it to the men appointed to supervise the work on the Lord's temple. These men paid the workers who repaired and restored the temple. They also gave money to the carpenters and builders to purchase dressed stone and timber for joists and beams for the buildings that the kings of Judah had allowed to fall into ruin. The men did the work faithfully. Over them to direct them were Jahath and Obadiah. Levites descended from Merari, Zechariah, and Meshullam descended from Kohath. The Levites, all who were skilled in playing musical instruments, had charged laborers and supervised all the workers from job to job. Some Levites were secretaries, scribes, and doorkeepers. A book of the law is found. Josiah celebrates the Passover. The death of Josiah, Necho, the king of Egypt, the fall of Jerusalem. Of course, after you have Jehoiachin, and Zedekiah. So Josiah dies. You get Jehoahaz, and Necho takes Eliakim's brother Jehoahaz and carries him off to Egypt. So the king of Egypt was an asshole. He was Necho. It's funny. The fall of Jerusalem. The Lord, the God of their fathers, sent word to them through his messengers again and again, because he had pity on his people and on his dwelling place. But they mocked God's messengers, despised his words, and scoffed at his prophets, until the wrath of the Lord was aroused against his people, and there was no remedy. He brought up against them the king of the Babylonians, who killed their young men with the sword in the sanctuary, and spared neither young man nor old woman, old man or age. God handed all of them over to Nebuchadnezzar. He carried to Babylon all the articles from the temple of God, both large and small, the treasures of the Lord's temple, and the treasures of the king and his officials. They set fire to God's temple and broke down the walls of Jerusalem. They burned all the palaces and destroyed everything of value there. He carried into exile to Babylon the remnant who escaped from the sword. They became servants to him and sons until the kingdom of Persia came to power. The land enjoyed its Sabbath rest. See, I actually read this in another video, but I'm just trying to emphasize it. All the time of his desolation he rested until the 70 years were completed in fulfillment of the word of the Lord spoken by Jeremiah. In the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, in order to fulfill the word of the Lord spoken by Jeremiah, the Lord moved the heart of Cyrus, king of Persia, to make a proclamation throughout his realm and to put it in writing. This is what Cyrus, king of Persia, said: The Lord, the God of heaven, has given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and has appointed me to build a temple for him at Jerusalem in Judah. Any one of his people among you, may the Lord his God be with him, and let him go up. It's kind of like what happened with the Babylonians and in World War II, where how they end up getting Israel. They staged the whole thing, and they're trying to mimic it, and it's not the real Jews, a bunch of white boys playing Jew. But anyway, I'll end this with a quote from the book of Luke. The boy Jesus at the temple. Every year his parents went to Jerusalem. This is from Luke 2:41. Every year his parents went to Jerusalem for the feast of the Passover. When he was 12 years old, they went up to the east according to the custom. After the feast was over, while his parents were returning home, the boy Jesus stayed behind in Jerusalem, but they were unaware of it. Thinking he was in their company, they traveled for a day. They then began looking for him among the relatives and friends. When they did not find him, they went back to Jerusalem looking for him. After 3 days, they found him in the temple courts, sitting among the teachers, listening to them and asking them questions. Everyone who had heard him was amazed at his understanding and his answers. When his parents saw him, they were astonished. His mother said to him, "Son, why have you treated us like this? Your father and I have actually searched for you." "Why were you searching for you?" he said. "Didn't you know I had been in my father's house?" But they did not understand what he was saying. Then he went down to Nazareth with them and was obedient to them. But his mother treasured all these things in her heart. And Jesus grew in wisdom and stature, and in favor with God and men. So then it goes on to John the Baptist, the baptizing of Jesus, temptation of Jesus, Jesus rejected at Nazareth, Jesus drives out an evil spirit, Jesus heals many, the calling of the first disciples, the man with leprosy, Jesus heals the paralytic, the calling of Levi, Jesus' question about fasting, Lord of the Sabbath, the 12 apostles, blessings and woes, judging others, a tree is fruit, the wise and foolish builders. Why do you call me Lord, Lord, and do not do what I say? I will show you what he is like who comes to me and hears my words and puts them into practice. He is like a man building a house who dug down deep and laid the foundation on rock. When a flood came, the torrent struck the house, but could not shake it because it was well built. But the one who hears my word and does not put them into practice, like a man who built a house on the ground without a foundation, the moment the torrent struck the house, it collapsed, and destruction was complete. It's the foundation. So even Jesus agrees it's the foundation that you need to build your house on. And the foundation is not just the Torah, it is Egypt. Thank you.